I'm just wondering, every time I turn on the television or every time I turn on open up the newspaper, I'm seeing the Pope or I'm seeing something about, somebody's religion. I'm just wondering are there any numbers, that would identify how many people out there actually go to church?
Yeah.
Because it's like just by looking at the news and the newspaper, you'd think that this whole country goes to church every Sunday, and I got to think about. I don't know a single person who goes to church.
There's a lot. Our media, especially the Statesman, has a strong kind of religious slant to it, and this has to do with. I don't know if you're ever familiar with Chomsky filtering. It basically is that there's decisions made at various levels by the owners and by the editors and so on to filter out a lot of things that they think won't sell papers or will piss off people and piss off their advertisers or whatever, right? And so, and they've given, and I've complained to the paper and interacted with them, and they give a lot of there's whole column inches given to promoting faith, but there's nothing promoting reason, and they're very much loath to publish stories where religion gets criticized or faith gets criticized. And I've written a couple articles on our website about that. So this is one thing that's going on is that there's a sort of a false characterization of what our society is like through the papers and such. And then you also get people playing mind games like, oh, I really believe in XYZ. When they answer the poll, they say that. And like with sex surveys, there's a lot of sort of self-deception that goes on, a lot of mind games that people play when they answer these questions. They don't want to be seen as atheists because they think atheism is bad, even though they may have a lot of doubts, right? And so they may actually answer certain ways because of the stigma associated with doubt. And I think that poll takers, by and large, haven't done a very good job of exploring these nuances. I don't think they take nearly as much care with religious surveys as they do with sex surveys, where this is a notorious problem of getting accurate results. I think the religious surveys, they're happy to have high numbers of religion, and yes, there are some studies where people don't go to church very much, and but they don't get much news, and they don't show up in the news very much, and you have to search them out.
Well, did you hear just I think it was last month, and I meant to save it and I forgot to, but there was an article. Some university did a study, a 10-year study, and their results were that over the last 10 years, a very large number of Americans had moved away from religion.
There's a number of them switched from one religion to another.
Well, no, they've just moved away from believing in God, by becoming atheists, I guess.
Yeah, the category called nuns, or none of the above, is getting very big. These are people that don't identify with specific religious traditions. Now, you have to actually subdivide this category is about, 15%, and it's getting bigger. But within this category are people that might have God beliefs and who don't have God beliefs. So very often you'll see this broken down into people who claim to be atheists and agnostics and so on. But this nuns people are basically people that have sort of given up on religion as a thing. They may still have beliefs and they may still read the Bible, they may still do whatever, but they're giving up on the formal religion thing. And I think that's a very interesting trend that's going on in the United States. That basically, religions are having a little tougher time selling their wares, I think.
Yeah, well, they're definitely, the Catholic Church, since all their homosexual, their homosexual problems, they've definitely on the blitz to get members.
Well, a lot of Protestant churches are having trouble too, like.
Yeah, well, they should. Yeah,
Ted Hagee.
That's why I'm saying, I don't know anybody who goes to church, but every time I turn on the TV, it's they make it look like this whole country goes to church every Sunday. And another thing, these politicians, they pander to these churches, and
definitely
with Obama here, he's been they holding the fire to him over what his preacher said. And and so all these politicians are getting in line saying, "Oh, well, I'm Christian, I'm God-fearing, I'm religious."
Yeah.
And religion, as far as I'm concerned, our forefathers were smart enough to say we're going to separate church and state, and they had a very good reason for doing that. And I think that we should, we need to make sure that we keep church and state separate, especially since the church doesn't even pay any taxes. Why in the hell would they have any say at all what's going on in politics?
Yeah, they're not supposed to.
Well, and they shouldn't. Like you said, what has the church ever done? For anybody. I mean, they've never come up with any kind of good idea. In fact, they've had nothing but bad ideas.
The only reason churches are tax exempt is because they used to have a bunch of money and they used to run the world. This is a leftover, this is a remnant of when they had all the control. They still got all of the money, or at least huge chunks of it, flipping great wads of cash. But it's this tradition. It's surely everybody just knows that religion does good things for society, so we'll give them a clean slate with regard to paying taxes. No, actually, I no longer think that that's the case. I think it may have been a case at some point when religion was primarily responsible for education of people. But guess what? We've now secularized schools. We no longer need the churches for schools. And I think that every church, or any organization, church or not, that wants a tax exemption should have to have public records and make a showing that they're doing something in the public interest that makes them deserving of a tax break. Not just, hey, we're the new Methodist church on the block, so we're tax-free.
Right. Yeah.